Hi, this is Sina Awesome, and one of the people posted about staying positive. There's actually a lot involved in staying positive. It's not just something that happens. I mean, at heart, I'm more of an optimist than a pessimist. And you can look at everything from good or bad. The classic example is the glass that's half full or half empty. And of course, I always choose to see it as half full. And language does matter. So if you think everything is horrible and you talk about everything being horrible, then you start to feel horrible. Whereas if you talk about things being good and you smile and you laugh and you try to enjoy things, you feel better and you look at things in a better light. I try to do that. I don't always succeed, but it's something I strive for. The other big thing is the difference between being a victim or not. If everything happens to you and it's not your fault, then you have no control. If you have no control, then bad things are just going to continue to happen to you. So that's where the victim idea just causes a downward spiral. So if you take control, then you, I guess, feel like you have some power. So when we make choices about Vandar's treatment, I feel more in control when I make plans about what we can do versus what we can't do. For example, when he had his radiation treatment and we really didn't have enough money to stay in a hotel the whole time. The fact that we stayed at rest stops and we used Harvest Host, and we found a really nice hostel that had good rates, and we just made it happen. Ideally, someone would go to a hotel and they would have stayed there for the 3 weeks, and everything would have just been, I guess, more normal. But if you don't have the money to do that, you just make it happen, and you don't complain about not having the money. You don't complain about what you can't do. You focus on what you can do. And it actually turned out pretty nice. We actually got to spend some good time and meet some really nice people. And that's part of having a positive outlook, is just looking at everything from the positive side, the classic saying of make lemonade out of lemons. I do listen to several different motivational type speakers. When I find something that strikes me as a phrase that works, I remember it. And I continue to do reading. We've been using the audiobooks because we drive so much. And of course, a lot of our audiobooks are entertainment, but some of our audiobooks are, I'd say, self-improvement or educational. And I listen to those. If I find something that strikes my fancy that I think can help me live better, I don't just assume that it won't help. An example of that is when I was up at UCSF, they had a little library of books. It was only like 20 books for caregivers to check out. And one of them was about breathing, a whole book. Yeah, a whole book about breathing. And that piqued my interest because I was, you hear about how breathing can help you, but, it's like, well, here's a whole book that talks about it. And it had some really great ideas in it. And actually, I liked it so much that I did return the book, but I went on to Amazon and I bought a used copy of the book. I don't practice everything all the time, but when I have time, or like when we're camping and I'm just kind of hanging out, sometimes I'll pull out the book and I'll work on breathing exercises. And I do pay attention to my breathing a lot more, because if breathing better can help me feel better, that's something I can carry with me my whole life. And it's such a simple thing, and we all do it. So I try to incorporate things into my life that make me less stress and make me more positive. but it's a conscious activity that's always ongoing. It's not where I just wake up every morning bright and chipper and ready to attack the day. I mean, we're always having challenges. And you just sometimes, like the breathing book, you take a deep breath and you go, it's not that big a deal. I can give an example. When we were at the hostel, I went up to take care of the dogs, and stuff wasn't working, so I was going to turn on the car, and it didn't even turn over. We'd gone through a tunnel. I'd turned the lights on. My van doesn't have a beep thing in it when you leave the lights on, so I didn't notice. So I ran the battery down, and and I have AAA, so it wasn't that big a deal. I called them. It took them about an hour to get there. So again, I go, no big deal. They came, they jumped it, they recommended I drive it for about an hour. So I planned on doing a couple other things. I was going to walk on the beach. Instead, I ended up driving the car. But I was so happy that I'd noticed it in the evening instead of in the morning when we were going to go to radiation treatment. Because if it had happened then, it would have just made the whole day a lot more stressful. So again, I looked at it as, I've got AAA, it just means I have to call and I just have to change a few plans, and what I had wasn't that important anyway. So sometimes it's even just letting the little stuff go and really addressing it for what it is. I'm going to post a lot of these because this is just a small example of my philosophy and what I do, and I can go into some of the other books or sayings that I use that I think help. So I hope this answers some of the questions. Thank you.